morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another salty Saturday morning. I am your host, Mr. Kadish. Get it right. And joining me, as always, is my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with the man, the myth, the legend, Dutch Butters of the Butters. How you doing, Butters?
Dutch Butters of the Butters. All right, that's kind of weird.
Of the butter people.
Yes,
Here
Mr.
we
Butts.
woefully unprepared. Got a little bit of a headache. Brain is fried, and it's okay. It's okay. It's what we do. It's when I do my best work. Is when I'm completely unprepared for anything. And let's go. Dutch Butters up there in the corner. That's nice. I like that little pancake house thing. What is the restaurant?
Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel. The Cracker Barrel logo. That's right. I did not make that. That's a Kadish thing up there. So yeah, I like it. It's fine. Hi everybody. What's up?
And he's the critic who's a cynic who happens to love pineapple on his pizza. It's Odin from O&B Reviews. Well, I'm not a news distortionist. I know for a fact you've eaten pineapple pizza before. So.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
But Matt, do you have your facts in front of you?
That actually is a fact. I hate to admit it, but
in my opinion,
it's
Odin
on video.
Loves pineapple pizza.
Now, I will say there are some who would argue that I did not eat the pineapple pizza, even though I did eat the pineapple pizza because it didn't go the way that they wanted it to in their heads. But I still had to swallow that disgusting stuff. I'm doing fine. Actually had an MRI this morning because I've had back issues since I was a teenager, and I was like, let me try and find out what's going on now. And apparently it's like a genetic thing where my family just has really bad joints and stuff, and so I've got
you have to grow a spine, Odin.
Yeah, I got moderate. I love how they give you these tests and then they give you the results, and then the doctor doesn't contact you before the results are sent to you, so you're just left wondering, what does this mean? So it's like moderate bulging disc. Oh, okay. What is that? Is that normal? Is that really, really bad? I don't know. I'm just left with it. Luckily, I do have a doctor in the family. He's not a back specialist, but was able to say, yeah, it's about normal for our family.
Bad joints, balding hair, huge testicles. I have so many issues in my family.
Odin, maybe they can give you a new spine like they did Worf in The Next Generation.
Whoa, maybe. Wouldn't that
remember
be
that episode?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be something?
Odin only watches
cybernetic Odin.
Cybernetic spines. Yeah. I think people forget about that episode when it comes to Worf. That I've
not seen all of the Next Gen.
Machine. He's part machine. Yeah.
Have you not seen all the Next Gen, Odin?
Because I'm working my way through. This past summer, I got through the whole first season of the original Star Trek, and I'm partway through season 2. So I'm going to watch all of that, and then I'll be able to watch Next Gen.
That's fair. I can't wait to get to Discovery. You're going to love Discovery, man.
Nope. I'm going to stop. Probably
you're going to love it. It's Voyager. So good.
You know what, dude? Voyager? I can't watch Discovery anymore. You know why?
Because you're a straight male?
No, that dumb shit, Tim Russ. He's ruined it for me.
Yeah.
Literally ruined. I can't.
I think you're thinking of Voyager, Dutch.
Or Voyager. Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay. Voyager's the one that messes me up.
Well, he ruins everything, so.
What did you say? Discovery?
Yeah, I was just messing with Odin. Don't watch Discovery.
I was like, I watched it. I was like, I'm probably going to go up to Voyager. I think that's the last.
The funniest thing about the Tim Russ thing is that Shatner basically just bitch slapped him down.
He's like the Star Trek version of Ruffalo. It's crazy. Star Wars has Hamill, Star Trek has Ruffalo or Tim Russ, and basically all the other cast members. But it seems like Tim Russ is just at the top of that.
Speaking of cast members,
for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of cast members, we have the one and only. I just have to put this in there because his name was invoked. But we have the one and only Brian from the Popcast and the Brain Show.
Everybody? Good to be here. Good to hang out with you guys.
K-pop superstar.
I'm still wiping the sleep out of my eyes. So Dutch texted me at 9:45. He's like, "Wake up, fucker! Wake up, fucker!" And I just answered back with an emoji of a sleeping bear.
Yeah.
I didn't even get out of bed. I just answered that back, and then my alarm goes off 3 minutes before airtime, and I'm just like.
That just tells me that you need to go to bed earlier, Brian.
Yep.
I'm working on this documentary, bro. It's kicking my ass once again.
Brian,
you know the drill. Every couple months,
on a documentary.
Always.
Every couple months, I'm at the very end of an edit for a documentary, and I'm just dying inside. I love my brother to death. I love him to death, and I think he has an amazing voice. I mean, dude, I'm pretty sure 50% of the reason our channel is successful is because of his buttery smooth voice. But my God, when you're on like day 14 and then and for 14 hours a day, you hear nothing but his voice, at some point you're like, God damn it, stop talking. Stop talking.
Well,
But I do love the guy.
there's that.
I was literally up until 5 in the morning listening to him talk.
Yeah.
So
Maybe you should have a healthier work-life balance.
I know. I need to have a healthy.
I was up at 5:30 this morning by
Yes.
choice.
Dude, he sends me
Exactly.
like bits and pieces of the audio. He's like, I hope you're working on it. I'm like, but you didn't send me the whole thing. Like, you're just working on it in pieces. I'm like, that's not really how it works. I need to know the whole thing. I don't know. So I try, and then you get to the end where he finally sends me the entire thing, and now I'm like rushing to finish the entire thing, and I'm dying, bro.
But
Dying.
Brian, honestly, dude, isn't that just how you work? That's when you do your best work, is when
That's
you're
true.
rushed and underslept.
It's true,
you're
yeah.
tired.
Yeah, I'm a
There's
clutch player.
and there's a deadline. You know, it's like, I got to get this done.
Yeah.
Let's go. You know, yeah.
I'm best under pressure. It's when there's no pressure where I'm just a lazy
Yeah,
asshole.
you're kind of lazy.
Give me some pressure and I'll handle it.
It's like, I'm gonna go have a drink. I'm gonna go out and play. And I'm gonna watch this movie. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like
Oh, yeah. So our documentary will reference one movie, and I'll watch the entire like 2-hour movie to find like a 5-second scene I can use. Next thing you know, I'm watching the sequel and the sequel to that. It's been 4.5 hours, and I'm still working on the same minute of footage.
Brian, 2 words: assistant editor.
I was going to
Wow.
say one phrase, ADHD.
Yeah, I know. I for sure have ADHD, 100%.
I need to break in here really quick because we were talking about that Tim Russ thing, right? And one of the guys in the chat said, "Go check out what Robert Beltran wrote." You know, Chicote, right? Have you seen this? He wrote about Charlie Kirk. Any of you guys? No.
No. I'm
Charlie
assuming it's
Kirk-
good.
no one
I don't
cares
even know who
about
this
Robert
guy
Beltran.
is.
Charlie
No one
Kirk
cares
was
about Robert
first.
Beltran.
I care about Robert Beltran. Chicote was cool, but
He was.
Charlie Kirk was first a Christian. Even in the most hostile places, he spread the gospel with patience and love. For that, he was hated, and his words were twisted out of context. We've lost a powerful voice for Jesus and a great patriot. I pray for those filled with such hate. I was not expecting that out of Robert Beltran. Wow, that's wild. But
Robert Beltran, no one wants to hear what he has to say because he's a conservative.
yeah, I didn't know he was a conservative. You know,
Yeah.
so he's like the one person in the whole Star Trek world that looks like he's normal.
I think
yeah.
Harry Kim and Garrett Wang might be an in the closet conservative.
Go Garrett, yeah.
Some of his comments over the last, because when I did the documentary, I listened to a lot of his
So you're
interviews.
saying Garrett Wang's in the closet?
He's a closeted Christian or a closeted conservative.
Choice of words.
Because I listened to hours and hours of his interviews when I made the Voyager documentary, and I'm like, this guy has some viewpoints that would not jam with modern day Hollywood.
Well, you know what does jam with modern day Hollywood are leaderboards. So I want to give a big shout out to Scotty Dub, who gave us $100 super thanks
Nice.
after last week's episode. So thank you so much for that, Scotty Dub. Also want to give a big shout out to Mexican Iron Man for being a consistent donator and not a YouTuber. And big shout out to Jillian H, Major Chai Chai, and Eric Winberg, who are our most consistent super chatters who give gifted memberships. In fact, I want to give a big shout out to Jillian H, who gifted 5 Salty Nerd Podcast memberships already this morning, and Danny's mom Penny, who gifted 1 Salty Nerd Podcast membership. That's very rare. Penny,
We only
Penny
got 4 to
never,
go.
she only gets the free membership. She never gives them, but she's giving them now. So thank you very
Good on
much,
Penny.
Thanks, Penny.
Yeah.
Thanks,
And,
Penny.
Brian's boyfriend, John Yulden, for £5. I got to meet Tim Russ at Comic-Con, and he is a complete ass.
Shocker.
Listen, and you say my boyfriend, but he has very soft hands, like extremely
does.
soft hands, so.
And a very smooth head.
And a very smooth head. Like, just generally speaking, he is a pleasure to talk to and touch inappropriately.
Are you cheating on me, Brian? I'm kind of.
Only after the show when you're at work.
I mean, I know that's supposed to be kind of disgusting, but it was also kind of touching in a very weird way.
Like a Romeo and Juliet story.
Like, you guys have a very special relationship with each other. You text each other and say "my love" to you. It's like,
No. He says mate.
oh, okay.
Brian,
He says
you
mate a lot.
Y'all are
You need
mates.
to go
huh?
put on your furry suit. for the remainder of the episode. So we got a goal of 10 memberships right now. So we are only 4 away from hitting our goal. Otherwise, Dutch Butters will quit. So we want to keep them on board. Also trying to hit that 25K subs still. We only got 3 months left, but I think we can do it. I think we're in the race.
I don't
Not really. Dutch, tell us about saltinerdiscord.com.
Oh gosh, what am I supposed to say about Salty Nerd Discord? It's a forum on the internet at saltinerdiscord.com where you can join it and come together and we can all talk about nerdy stuff in games. You know, that's what we do there. So
Yeah.
you know,
And ban crazy people.
or
as well.
complain about things, or just it's mostly gaming stuff, guys. It's mostly Salty Nerd Gaming. So
I have my one message board where I talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
movies. That's about it.
Yeah, I like how your whole movie Discord has slowly whittled away all the movies and television, and it's like 98% gaming now.
yeah.
Well,
yeah.
speaking of movies, we want to give a shout out to Mephisto's Movie Reviews, who does the Real McCoy podcast right after this show. But what else is after this show is the Brain Show. Brian pees in his adult diaper and then goes right into talking about politics. Brian, what are you talking about today on the Brain Show?
So we're talking a little bit about Jimmy Kimmel. Like, we're definitely talking about that. We're going to talk about some of the protests and reactions, and some of the people, a lot of the people's really interesting reactions to Jimmy Kimmel versus like some people like Gina Carano and other people that have been quote unquote canceled by the left. We're also talking about the whole Warner Brothers, Netflix, Disney, the weird incestuous buyout thing that's going on right now. I'm actually fairly certain that this is like a Zaslav plan to inflate but I'm cool with
Stock price.
it
Yeah.
because I got stock to inflate the stock price. But I'm cool with it because I got stock. So keep doing what you're doing, Zaz. And we're doing a meme review, and we're going to be reviewing one of the most offensive cartoons that I've ever discovered. And let me tell you something. This cartoon, and I was only able to clip about 5 minutes of it, but it is a perfect depiction of how, in reality, the media, legacy media, operates. And it features a Trump supporter, a gay, trans, obese Muslim woman, and a pro-gay, pro-life Nazi.
Oh, how edgy are they? Wow.
And in wrapped in all that is Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC. It's a fantastic video. You don't want to miss it.
Well, what else?
It's not South Park. It's not South Park.
Yeah,
I must
we
have
don't want
missed
to
that
miss
show.
out on super chats because John Yulden for another £5. Just because Brian turned you down, no need to get salty, Matt. Hey, I need Brian in my life, so
I think
Screw
he's
you,
talking
John.
to me. I think he's talking to me.
Hey.
well, now I have to fight with you, Dutch, because
That's okay.
you know,
You can have
there's only one Brian. There's only one.
There's only
Brian.
one of me, but there's a lot of
Also,
me to go around.
Everyone in chat, I want to encourage you, if you like the show and you want to support us, send us some hype. There's this new feature on YouTube called Hype, where you can spend points on smaller channels to help kind of get them discovered. So if you have any hype points that you haven't spent yet this month, consider sending some our way, and also save some for the Brain Show immediately after this.
Does
and
it work
any-
now? I don't have it on my account. I
Where
don't
are
think.
these hype points at?
Yeah, I
it's
can
a
never find
it's a mobile feature.
Okay,
Oh.
hold
So-
on. Get my phone out real quick.
Yeah, so
I
it should
forget
be
they're
like
there.
it should be one of the chips underneath the video. It says hype. You click on that, and then you can like spend hype points on whatever video.
But
you're
it
watching.
won't show up if you're. It can't be like a business channel, right? It's got to be like a normal. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know the details of it, but if you're able to spend hype points on us, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, I've been looking at this. I can't wait to find my hype points. I don't have that option, but if you have the option, please spend it on this channel. Hype
Yes,
points
indeed.
do help the algorithm determine what is next.
Okay, speaking of what is next, guys, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about free speech before we get into the Jimmy Kimmel stuff, which we are going to get into. But you know, it's kind of funny because a lot of people, like when they say like, "Oh, our democracy is under attack," they conflate republic with democracy. Like the United States is a constitutional republic; it's not a democracy.
Right.
Because democracy is basically the tyranny of the majority. Essentially, if you have a majority of people the minority gets screwed over time and time again, but a constitutional representative republic has protections for minorities in it. The same thing is true of free speech. People continuously mischaracterize this free speech argument where they say our freedom of speech is being taken away, our right to free speech is being taken away. Here's the thing about free speech is that, so I'm a free speech absolutionist or absolutist. Basically, I believe all speech should be free. It doesn't matter how hateful or spiteful it is. Your right to say that is equal to my right to fight back against it with my speech, stuff like that. So I don't fault anyone for saying anything that they say. However, this notion, this narrative that's out there that our rights are being taken away, one of the things that you have to understand is, first of all, free speech is a God-given right. It is something where if you were dropped in the middle of the desert outside of civilization, you still have that right to say whatever you want. We are born with the right to basically say whatever we want, and we die with that right. The thing about the First Amendment is that the First Amendment doesn't give you the right to free speech. What it does is it restricts the government's ability to censor and punish what it is you have to say.
Yep.
That's the primary function of the First Amendment. Is it's a limitation on government. It is not a grant of freedom to the person, because before the founding fathers sat down and drafted the Constitution, if you said anything the monarchy didn't like, you could be put to death. If you criticized the government, you could be charged with treason and put to death. Basically, you could be punished very severely for saying something that those in charge didn't agree with or didn't like. And when this country was founded, this protection was the very First Amendment for a reason. It's because freedom can only flourish if people are free to say what they want to say and unafraid of government sanction from that. So the First Amendment argument, it's really being mischaracterized right now, especially because the First Amendment is a restriction on government. And people are saying like, oh, well, Trump's threatening to do this, Trump's threatening to do that, blah, blah, blah. Well, there are some consequences to saying whatever it is you want. And some of those consequences fly in the face of established laws and regulations, which is what they've been really hammering on. The biggest thing is that in the previous 4 years of Biden, and then like even before that with the advent of cancel culture, I'd say probably around the time of Obama's reelection, the left has basically operated with impunity where they've never been held accountable for anything that they've had to say. And the people who got canceled for sharing their speech were actually celebrated for being canceled by the left. So it's okay to do it when they're in power, but when they're out of power, it's not okay. So there's this huge hypocrisy going on right now. Mm-hmm. And the Jimmy Kimmel thing is part and parcel one of the big red flags that the left is basically a bunch of hypocrites, because the type of reaction that we're seeing from celebrities and from politicians and stuff like that to Jimmy Kimmel getting his show canceled. Now, keep in mind, his free speech hasn't been squashed. He can go do a podcast. He can go to a different network. He can do a bunch of stuff where, like he's still able to kind of say what he wants to say.
And you can argue that his reach is even more than what he can do on his show.
It's also not canceled. It's just really postponed for now.
Indefinitely. But
come back next week.
But here's the thing. Jimmy Kimmel can say whatever he wants to say without fear of being shot in the neck. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. So like this whole idea that what happened to Jimmy Kimmel is outrageous and what happened to Charlie Kirk is just like, well, he deserved it. Like this isn't a free speech issue, right? This is a two-tier justice system issue. And the left, who has Jimmy Kimmel himself celebrated when Roseanne got basically deplatformed and canceled for what she had to say. Same thing with Tucker Carlson. He has a long history of celebrating cancellation when it happens to people he disagrees with. Mm-hmm. But when it happens to him, all of a sudden it's a problem, right? So, and that's this thing with the left is just the sheer hypocrisy of this argument that freedom of speech is under attack because someone said something that is verifiably untrue and is getting punished for it. Now here's the thing about because I know that Brendan Carr, who's the head of the FCC, he was on Benny Johnson's podcast, and Benny Johnson, he's a typical kind of moderate, middle of the road right winger, and he was interviewing the head of the FCC a day after Jimmy Kimmel made these comments. And keep in mind that these comments that Jimmy Kimmel made on a Monday, it's 3 or 4 days removed of when the police and the investigators actually came out and verifiably stated, without any kind of like, interpretation needed, that the shooter was a leftist, he was radicalized, he was homosexual, he had a furry trans, roommate, partner,
Lover.
lover. But like the left was still trying to push this narrative that because he came from a family of traditional conservative right-wingers, that he was somehow a right-winger himself. But that had been verifiably like dismissed as, fake, which is what it was. But Jimmy Kimmel went out on stage in front of his entire audience and knowingly lied and misrepresented what the facts were. And that falls under an FCC guideline called news distortion, which is basically like if you get up and you tell the public something that you know to be false and is verifiably false, but you pass it off as fact, what you're doing is a public disservice, and it's in violation of the public airwaves. So Brendan Carr rightfully pointed this out when he was on Benny Johnson's podcast and basically said that, if this isn't rectified internally by Disney, there will be measures taken to, call Disney in front of like the FCC and make them defend their position as to why they knowingly let a very public member of their broadcast network commit news distortion, right? And that was pretty much the extent of what Brendan Carr said, even though he did kind of like imply that he wanted network affiliates to go out there and essentially like, hold Disney's feet to the fire because of their bad behavior. And this is also coming off the heels of a number of libel and defamation lawsuits that the Trump administration has privately brought against places like NBC, CBS, ABC, because they've had news personalities repeat verifiably false allegations against Trump, like, that he's a rapist, that he's, done a bunch of like bad stuff in regards to the election and things like that, stuff that has proven to be false, but they keep pushing out as news. And part of the reason why that these networks continually settle with Trump is because they know that they're in the wrong and it can be proven to be so in a court of law. And so they decide to settle these things, issue an apology, and then get on with their lives. Now, we're going to be talking about Jimmy Kimmel right now, because this is like the big headline of the week, where basically Jimmy Kimmel went on air to his millions of viewers, presented verifiably untrue claims as fact, and refused to retract those or apologize for them. And what this does is it opens up any broadcaster on the airwaves who puts Jimmy Kimmel's show out there. It opens them up to all types of governmental sanctions and actions and penalties. It'd be just like if somebody got up on there and started shouting the F word constantly. Any affiliate or any network that broadcasts that stuff would be fined a lot of money for every infraction of that rule. Yeah. And so what really happened here with Jimmy Kimmel isn't so much that his freedom of speech is under attack, it's that he violated FCC rules and that there were going to be consequences for him violating those things. Now, Brendan Carr, a lot of people are saying like, oh, he threatened ABC or like whatever. He didn't threaten ABC. He just said that the FCC has ways to basically punish the offending broadcasters for violating their rules, which is absolutely true. Every governmental agency, if you violate their rules, they have a way of coming after you. Now, before we get into this and before I throw it to the panel, I just want to kind of lay the groundwork as to what it means to be a broadcast affiliate. Because essentially what happened was Jimmy Kimmel wasn't taken off the air by ABC necessarily. What happened was the affiliate networks of Disney and ABC openly revolted, and threatened to basically not air or preempt Jimmy Kimmel's show constantly, like indefinitely, if he didn't apologize and walk back his statements. And that forced Disney's hand to basically say like, well, if we're losing all of our affiliate support for this show, we have to do something about it. And I want to kind of like set the stage as to why that is. It has nothing to do with the Trump administration pressuring ABC or, unfairly prosecuting Jimmy Kimmel. So what an affiliate network is basically, it's kind of like a fast food franchise. So every McDonald's you see on the corner is an independently owned business. McDonald's doesn't actually own that business. It's owned by a local business owner who pays a franchise fee to McDonald's for the right to use their logo and their copyrights and their food and all this other stuff. And then they sell that stuff and they kick back a portion of their profits to McDonald's proper. And franchise broadcast networks operate very much the same way. Basically, they have their own kind of like broadcast tower where they send out a signal. And one of the reasons that the major networks are major to begin with is because they have enough of these affiliates across the entire country to get their programming out in front of those eyeballs. And those eyeballs are important because the more people that they can reach, the more money they can charge advertisers to show their ads. And the way that local network affiliates make money is that, so that they pay a license fee to get the major programming from the primary broadcaster, in this case, ABC. And then outside of that programming, they're able to either create their own programming, which is usually in the form of local news, or they can buy licenses for syndicated content. Like, for instance, Star Trek: The Next Generation became the hit that it was because local broadcasters bought it in syndication, and they're able to play that during time periods where they don't have sanctioned, programming from the major affiliate or the major network that they're affiliated with. And what happens is that they get a certain amount of time during the major network programming, the regularly scheduled programming, to run local affiliate ads. And then during their local programming, whether it be affiliated reruns or syndicated reruns, talk shows, or local news shows, they can sell all the local advertising during that time period too. Now, what happened was you have Nexstar and Sinclair networks, and these are basically like bundles, like local broadcasting bundles that control a lot of like the local networking stations for ABC. And in this case, it was a full third of ABC's nationwide coverage. All right, let that sink in for a minute. It was like if these two, if these two groups decided to not air ABC programming, ABC would lose a third of their nationwide coverage. Now, ABC does own some of their own broadcast networks, but those tend to be in major media outlets like New York and LA and Chicago and stuff like that. But everywhere else in the country, they rely on these affiliates to get their programming out there. And a big part of that is nationwide ad spends, where basically they sell advertisements during their programming, and that's how they monetize, right? And what happens is if a third of those views go away, that means that all of the ad deals that they made also go away, right? Because they're in breach of contract. So what was happening with Sinclair and Nexstar is basically they were saying like, hey, we're going to preempt Jimmy Kimmel's show, which means that all the advertisement that was sold during that show is no longer available to the broadcast network. And Jimmy Kimmel's show was already a money loser, right? So they were basically demonetizing him, much like how YouTube demonetizes people they don't like, right? But one of the big things here is that, the affiliates for a long time have been kind of like treated like a redheaded stepson by these broadcast networks, because the networks are putting so much focus on their streaming stuff that local broadcasters are getting screwed over in terms of like exclusivity for the major programming and stuff like that. So there was already a lot of tension between the major broadcasters and these affiliate networks. But what happened here is like the affiliate networks were getting calls from their local advertisers, the ones who actually buy commercials for like their local news and stuff like that. And these local advertisers in the middle of America, outside of these like large leftist cities and stuff like that, were basically saying like, hey, we don't like what Jimmy Kimmel's doing, and we're going to pull our advertising unless you do something about it. And they did something about it. And this is how the free market works, right? This is how we course correct against bad behavior by leftist elites, is basically we follow the money and we hit them in their pocketbook. Now, in this case, Jimmy Kimmel did something that was against FCC guidelines. He created news distortion, which is basically like he was basically lying to his audience, and he was unapologetic about it. And as we get into the story, we find out that Bob Iger and Dana Walden, who's the head of ABC programming, sat down with Jimmy Kimmel and said, hey, just apologize and we'll just sweep this under the rug. And Jimmy Kimmel refused to do so. In fact, he was going to go on the next day and double down on what he said, which was basically that he claimed that a right-winger was responsible for the death of Charlie Kirk. Verifiably untrue, but he was going to double down on it. And so that put Bob Iger and Dana Walden in a very uncomfortable position, because basically a third of their network affiliates were going to drop the show. They were going to create all types of crazy issues with the advertisers, the nationwide advertisers, in addition to the local advertisers, if they did this. And basically Jimmy Kimmel, by being an elitist asshole, forced Bob Iger and Dana Walden's hand and said, like, okay, we're going to have to suspend your show until you come to your senses. And that's actually what happened. It had nothing to do with the FCC or the Trump administration.
Nothing.
It had to do with basic free market economics and pressure by the fact that these affiliate broadcasters who've been treated terribly by the major broadcast networks to begin with, finally put their foot down and said, like, hey, you need us more than we need you right now.
Right.
So either you do this or we're walking. And in this game of chicken, ABC is the one who blinked. Now having said all that, I want to thank you guys for letting me kind of do my TED talk here. I'm going to throw it to the panel to react on this. So let's start with you, Dutch. What do you think?
Gosh.
What do you think about Jimmy Kimmel? Is he really getting persecuted for freedom of speech?
Well, I think you kind of laid it out pretty well. I think he fucked around and he found out. I think that's what's kind of going on, right? I don't know. I've been trying to process all this for the last week, and I didn't watch Jimmy Kimmel. I've never watched him, unless it was like a rare skit you see on YouTube where he's.
No, even when you're forced to by YouTube, like
watch
Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
Watch Kimmel next clip.
I mean,
autoplay.
He's made me laugh a few times back in the Man Show days when he was slapping asses and and having fun with Adam Carolla and stuff.
When he was in blackface and harassing
that was a long time ago. Back when he was actually funny, before he was a mouthpiece of the leftist retards out there. But no, man, I don't know. I don't know where I'm at on all this. I have an issue with people being canceled and people being silenced, but I don't like it when it happens to people on either side. Now, yes, there's a lot of evil people out there, and I'm not crying if they get taken off the air. It doesn't matter to me. I hope they do the same thing to The View pretty soon, to be perfectly honest with you. Those screeching harpies are the biggest cause of lefty extremist weirdo opinions I've ever seen in my life. They just never stop. But I don't know what to say, because like I said earlier, I'm still processing this whole thing, but I don't feel bad for Jimmy. I don't feel bad for him at all. I don't think anybody really watched him anymore. I think late night television is kind of irrelevant. I haven't watched a late night television show since probably when Conan was still doing the Tonight Show. That was the last time I watched any kind of late night television show. So I think the whole genre is kind of outdated for, when people went to bed at 11 o'clock at night and only had 3 channels to watch on television. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm happy. I don't want to live with these people, man. I'm tired of having these things out there that's in my face all the time. I feel like he doesn't do anything but cause more division and strife in the world, and he's just not on my side of things. I don't know how to explain this, guys. I'm having a hard time here, but I'm not crying for Jimmy Kimmel, I guess is about the best way to say
how can
that.
you?
So I don't care. If he never comes back, great. They're probably saving some money in the long run by getting rid of him anyway. Just like they're doing with Colbert. So I don't know.
Well, I want to throw this to Odin, who's our numbers guy, because a lot have been talking about, Jimmy Kimmel's viewership. And we have this article where basically he talks about how he's lost 72% of his viewers in the key demo over the past decade. So basically, like, as soon as Trump got in office and Jimmy Kimmel transitioned from being like a late night show to basically a political show, his viewership has steadily gone down in the rankings. And basically nowadays it hits about an average of 1.6 million viewers over the course of a month in overall views. But in the key demos, which is the demographics that advertisers want, he's down to 261,000 views in that demo per month. So we're seeing more and more young people in key demos kind of shift away from like late night, in particular Jimmy Kimmel show. And in the key demographic, like, you know, like I'd argue that like channels like Nerdrotic and Geeks and Gamers and stuff like that get more views on a monthly basis than Jimmy Kimmel does, even though he's like on like every night and, you know, doing his thing. But so in terms of like the demographics here, in terms of the ratings, do you think that Disney was kind of like looking at the same numbers that CBS was when they took when they decided to cancel Stephen Colbert and say, hey, this guy's costing us a lot of money, he's continually going down in the ratings, this isn't a big loss?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this was purely a financial decision. And that's what's been driving me crazy about all of these celebrities coming out and all of the different comments by others, you know, trying to say that this has anything to do with freedom of speech, because this was not the Trump government coming in saying, we don't like Jimmy Kimmel, we are going to silence him. That's not what happened here. What happened, as you again laid out, was it was a financial choice, because initially it starts with his comments. There's reactions to his comments, which do include, therefore, reactions from the FCC chair, which, again, even if you don't like what he said, the fact is that he is the head of the FCC, and that is something under his purview as far as the content and as far as the messaging being put out there. And even then, he did not say, oh, by the way, this is exactly what we're going to do. It was more of a, hey, I mean, the FCC is here to take care of certain things. So what happens, though, is not that the FCC says something to ABC and then ABC complies. It was instead, as you mentioned, the affiliates that started to say, no, we're not showing this, meaning they're not making that money. And then they're looking at Jimmy Kimmel saying, well, hey, we just gave you, because his last contract was for $15 million, I believe. And if you're getting, and for, by the way, for the month of the, because you mentioned his key demo viewers, for August, he had actually already come down to about 120,000 in the key demo, roughly. So we're talking about a show that was already bleeding money. They spent way too much on his initial contract already. I mean, this is a guy that's being paid, you know, what, hundreds of thousands, whatever per episode of whatever his show is. And so they're looking at that, and then they're looking at the lost revenue from these local affiliates, you know, basically saying, no, we're not putting up with this because this speech is harmful. And again, when you mentioned the First Amendment, you know, people saying, oh, free speech and et cetera, you mentioned it earlier. The First Amendment protects you from the government coming in and doing something. It does not say anything about private companies or about privately owned companies having consequences for the things that you say or the things that you do. And ultimately, that's what happened here. He said something that he shouldn't have said. There was a market reaction. And so therefore the heads of ABC made a market decision. And ultimately he made the decision to not only not try to rescind his comments that were incorrect, but also to double down on them and to even go further. And it wasn't even to go double downing on the identity of the shooter. It was specifically, at least the reporting is saying, to go after the MAGA crowd, right? And the other thing we have to keep in mind, right, for anyone that for any reason still thinks this has anything to do with the FCC and the government coming in to silence his voice in any way, which again, we've already proven is not actually the case in this case, is that if this was something that they could do and this is something that they were going to do anyway, they wouldn't have waited until now to do it. He said much worse things about Trump. He said much more egregious things even about Trump and other persons, right? So if this was just about, and this is during both administrations, there's plenty of other shows that have done this as well. So if this was just a pure power grab, why wouldn't this have been done back during the first administration? Why would it have taken all the way until September of this year, when he's been president since January, for anything like that to happen again, if that was actually what was going on? But again, verifiably, it's not what's going on. And the argument itself just does not hold any weight whatsoever. So yeah, I feel no sadness for Jimmy Kimmel, because he also, the other factor here is he actually went after or rather celebrated when other companies, right, were making decisions based off of the speech of others too. And he celebrated those decisions that were made at the time. And the amount of hypocrisy here is just, again, rich. So it's like, if you're going to play by certain rules, be ready for those rules to be played back to you. And also, what happened here was a market decision and not anything to do with the government shutting down his speech.
Yeah, live by the sword, die by the sword, dude.
Speaking of which, Brian, so right here, we talked about news distortion, which is what they were claiming Jimmy Kimmel was guilty of. And this is the actual FCC guideline that says the commission's prohibition against broadcast of hoaxes is set forth at section 73.1217 of the commission's rules. This rule prohibits broadcast licensees or permittees from broadcasting false information concerning a crime or catastrophe if the licensee knows this information is false, it is foreseeable that broadcast of the information will cause substantial public harm, and broadcast of the information does in fact directly cause substantial public harm. And so basically, like Jimmy Kimmel going out there and saying that the shooter was MAGA in a time where right-wingers are concerned about being violently assaulted, because we've seen it on subways, we've seen it on buses, we've seen it, with illegal immigrants going around, raping and murdering innocent women, all this stuff. People are afraid right now. And Jimmy Kimmel goes out there and knowingly falsifies information to make people more afraid of the right wing. He's basically saying the right wing is killing themselves. And that's what you have to be afraid of. And that type of thing, I think, definitely violates this thing about hoaxes and the commission's guidelines. So what's your take on this?
Well, I don't like how broad that speech is, if I'm being honest. I think you're right. Free speech is not like a favor from your government or your politicians. It is a God-given right, 100%. But for decades, since I was a child, I think the right and left have both abused the quote-unquote protection of free speech. I remember in the 90s, Howard Stern being fined out of existence. And while you can not like Howard Stern, I certainly don't. I remember that they gave the FCC the whip when the right was in charge. The FCC went really ham. They had way too much power given to them over broadcast media. And then when the left got in charge, they used, for almost 30 years, they have used that whip to further those censorship rules, broaden the scope, and blur the lines even further. And they've used that whip to silence people and to silence free speech. Now, I don't like it. I'm a free speech absolutist, just like you. Free speech all the way. It's God-given right. I believe that it's the First Amendment for a reason. And I think the Second Amendment exists to protect the First Amendment. I love freedom of speech. I'm with it. I also very much dislike Jimmy Kimmel in every way. I dislike the man. I think he's a liar. I think he's a sycophant. I think he's a straight up traitor to our country. But I also don't think that he should be removed. Someone said in the chat that he has freedom of speech, but not freedom to a TV show. 100%. This was not the government removing his ability to speak on the air. The government doesn't move fast enough to have gotten him fired. The government is a slow-moving machine that takes a lot of time to do anything important. His contract was up, next April, I think it was? Hey, they just saved, 8 months of having to pay this guy, and they don't have to renegotiate. There isn't going to be months and months of lawyers and additional costs. They're going to get rid of him regardless. Look, they just canned Stephen Colbert, and Stephen Colbert was the number one person in that crappy slot. If Jimmy Kimmel was number 2, you don't think Jimmy Kimmel was far behind? Of course. This is just the easiest way to get rid of him. So when the affiliates spoke up and complained, hey, you know what? Let's just pull this trigger now while we have a morals clause we can abuse. This was capitalism. This was corporate America doing what corporate America does. But on that same note, I don't like the fact that the FCC has such blurry speech when it comes to their rules. I don't like that they're like what you read to me right now is so broad. Like right now, the right's in power. Great, cool. But what happens when the left's in power? We get another censorship over COVID vaccines. They could have used that exact speech in that wording to silence anyone they want. They did.
They did.
Right? And so that's the problem. The language is too broad. It's too interpretive. I don't like the fact that anyone at the FCC that right now they agree with us, but what happens when someone's in power that doesn't agree with us and they can utilize that super blurry, broad language to silence real facts, to silence people they don't agree with. I hate that. I don't like Jimmy Kimmel. I'm glad that he's fired. I don't like the guy. I think he should have been fired years ago. He's not funny. But I hate the fact that that once again the pendulum has swung to the right, and we're doing this, and I'm not saying we did here, but the FCC has the same blurry sort of authoritarian power that it did in the 90s. I think that's a very dangerous step. I think that we need to limit how much power the FCC has over our speech. I believe that the FCC should not exist to punish people for thought crimes. It should exist to protect people's ability to speak, not punish people's bad speech. And
Brian,
you know what? Even if I disagree with you, I can disagree with you. I can hate you, but I will die and I will bleed on the flag to keep the stripes red, to make sure that you have the ability to say stupid, retarded shit.
Brian, I will push back a little bit, because in this, they do kind of define what they mean by public harm and crime and catastrophe and stuff like that. And they also talk about what proof needs to be submitted in order to prove that these things have been violated. And Brendan Carr on Benny Johnson's show did say that there would be a hearing where Disney would be called in front of them to make their case as to why this wasn't news distortion and in violation. Right. So like there are.
Can you go back to that though real quick?
Well, also,
Sure.
When you bring that back up too, because someone in the comments was saying but he wouldn't fall under this because he's like comedy show. It's like, it's actually very clear. They're saying it's any programming that is not specifically accompanied by a disclaimer that makes it clear that it's a work of fiction or something.
But
that
it's also on the public airwaves.
No. But if it was on the public airways and there was some type of disclaimer to make it clear that was not actually something that was true, that'd be one thing. But they don't have that disclaimer. That's the thing. Is like, even if you're going to try to make that argument, it doesn't work because there is no disclaimer for that show, and so therefore it would be underneath the same thing.
But also keep in mind, Odin, that these rules here aren't for the offending show; it's for the broadcasters that carried them. So the affiliates and the broadcast network that sent out that show on the airwaves. That's what these rules are in specific relation to. This is about how those broadcasters are fined and penalized for doing that type of thing.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it would not, like, again, this would be, I was just saying his show would still be covered underneath it because of the kind of show that it is.
Yeah. Here's the problem. Okay, I hate that I have to fucking defend Jimmy Kimmel right now, because I think this guy is disgusting. But you look at these, and I know they're gonna have hearings and all that stuff. But do you think like a network that's paying someone wants to deal with all that? Isn't it way easier to just fire someone that's causing them to have to go in front of hearings and talk to the FCC? That's the problem with this. This speech is so broad. You can with no teeth at all, you can go after someone that you don't like what they're saying because they're saying something bad about, say, the Trump administration or the Biden administration or the Kamala administration. We didn't name the administration here. And you can go after them because you don't like what they're saying, because they're being naughty. They're saying naughty things. And knowing that you have no teeth just to pressure companies into removing those people from their platforms. That's the problem with this. Look, I know what it says. And that in a perfect world where those rules would be upheld by a completely unbiased computer, then that would be great. In a perfect world where we actually know when someone is lying about what they're saying on air, that would be great. When we know if someone's being malicious, but we live in a world of grays where we don't know if someone's being malicious or they're just retarded. We don't know if they're lying on purpose or they're giving bad information. We don't know if the person prosecuting that information is biased left or right or a fucking Martian. We don't know. So the problem with that, once you give the government control, they never give it back, man. They hold on to it, And when your side comes back into power, they're going to utilize that against you. I've been demonetized 3 times. 2 times were for medical misinformation when I literally read from the CDC website. I was demonetized for reading from the CDC website because someone at YouTube or whatever didn't like that I was even discussing that pandemic. The wild coincidence that that this started in like the late 70s, 80s, and now in 2025, we're having the same problem. The coincidence is that we gave the government power, and every time one side got into power, we got a little more power so we can punish our opposition. But then when the pendulum swings the other way, that power is utilized against us. I think the only way to go forward when it comes to freedom of speech, yes, the right to say whatever you want. Yes, for a company to fire you if you're saying something that doesn't align with their goals. But given too much power, whatever side of the government that doesn't agree with you or agrees with you that day is going to utilize you against that next day. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Jimmy Kimmel's a dirtbag. He praised Gina Carano being fired. He praised Roseanne being fired. He's made fun of multiple people being platformed. He did an entire segment about how Alex Jones was fined $1 billion. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And Alex Jones didn't even have a public broadcasting show. So I hate these people. I think they're disgusting liars. I think Jimmy was on that show purposely dividing the American people. I think he's a dirtbag. But I think that anyone being removed or being pressured to be removed based on blurry speech is a really fine line. And once you take that genie out of the bottle, bro, you can never put it back. In the words of Aladdin, ultimate cosmic power, itty bitty live in space. We need to make sure that the government has less control and not more control. Their entire motive should be to protect freedoms and not punish people that misuse them.
That's why in my ideal world, I would just get rid of the FCC completely, and I would have it be a state thing. Because again, anything that's not specifically designated in the Constitution should be left to the states.
I think my biggest issue with everything here is just simply the hypocrisy. It's like you said, he celebrated all these other people that didn't agree with him on a philosophical or political level getting canceled. Celebrated it. Made entire monologues about it. Just made this big, huge deal of it. And that's what all these fucking people do, man. They do it on The View. They do it on Jimmy Kimmel. They do it. Stephen Colbert has made a career out of it. All these guys. And now that the shoe's on the other foot, all of a sudden it's not okay. Has it ever been okay? Probably not. Probably not okay to cancel people over beliefs. But, this is being disciplined for being a liar, for spreading untruths. And when he's trying to make a martyr out of himself, I feel like,
that's silly too.
And it's dumb. And what I feel like what's going on is this thing. We're a week out from Charlie being shot. Okay. The country is still figuring that whole thing out. So now the left has this thing with Jimmy Kimmel on it, and they're desperately trying to change the narrative to making Jimmy Kimmel the news and not Charlie Kirk. Because the longer Charlie Kirk is in the news cycle, the more votes are going to be going towards the Republican side of things
100%.
Come 2026. It's just the way it is. That organization he has, Turning Point, they've gotten, I think I saw 60,000 requests to start a chapter of their thing in the school.
Bro, and their demos are so good. It's like
in the last week,
between like 15 to the 30-year-olds. That's a huge demo.
That's the real story here. That's why they are so fucking desperate to change the narrative into this Jimmy Kimmel free speech bullshit.
Well, look how fast those protesters popped up, dude.
Oh,
yeah. That's organized if I've ever seen it.
Oh, 100%. And that's the story. That's the real story to me is they're trying to take the message of Charlie away and put it back and put it on Jimmy Kimmel.
And you know
Yeah,
that's what
I
they're
think
doing.
Jimmy's dreaming if he thinks that he had a job next April.
No,
There's no way his contract is renewed next April. So he's dreaming.
You know, I'm sorry, but the left, they're kind of cooked right now. You know, they know that their party was already in a bad state, and now that arrow is just going down. It's in a free fall right now with all of the nonsense that's going on with their party, and sucks to be them, I guess. But
No, it doesn't.
yeah, you know. So, but that's how I see it. I just see nothing but a lot of hypocrisy, and a lot of these fringe lefties they're mad about it, and things are gonna get crazy over the next 8 to 12 months, guys. It's gonna be,
To be honest,
be careful, duck, man.
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel wouldn't even have a job if the left hadn't been funneling dark money into propaganda.
Yeah,
because there's no way he's ever made his money back on that show.
And pharmaceutical.
Oh yeah,
and
you know
pharmaceutical.
also you know like just what Dutch was saying. You know that's what they're doing. They're trying to take over the narrative
Yeah, they're
for
taking
themselves, not only
credit
because
for it.
of how loud they're speaking, but they're even appropriating the same language. Right?
Mhm.
We are Jimmy Kimmel. They are literally stealing that from the "We Are Charlie Kirk" that was just from a few days ago, right? And you see this happening, elsewhere too, where like they're using almost the same exact language in the same exact way. But the difference is that on the one hand, someone was killed for their opinion, and on the other hand, someone was disciplined by a financial decision because he was costing a company money. Those are two vastly different things.
And he was going to be fired anyways.
Honestly, anyone who's out there who's actually trying to equate the two in any way, those are the people that I think need to be looked into.
Yeah, dirtbags.
Jimmy just needs to go start a YouTube channel or something like Conan did. He'll be fine. He'll make a lot of money.
Well, how about this though?
He doesn't need money anyway. So
people are not talking enough about how fast those protests were organized. Signs made. I mean,
look, man,
dude, there's no way there isn't an organization behind this.
Look. I think just yesterday, I think they designated Antifa as a terrorist organization, and that's going to open up a whole other route of ways to stop that funding, because now they can go in there and they can go into those George Soros funded organizations and they can say, no, fuck you, you're done, and they can make it stop. So it's going to be real interesting to see how that all goes down in the next few months.
Should have been a terrorist organization.
They should have been years ago.
The Summer of Love made it very clear
who's
their
been in
intentions
charge
are
for the last
terrorism.
5 years, dude? Who's been in charge? That's not.
That's the problem, right? That's the problem.
So yeah, Antifa getting that designation is going to change things dramatically as far as the vans mysteriously showing up on the street corners with the signs and the pallets of bricks mysteriously showing up on the corner for people to throw, and that's all going to go away.
It's such a psyop, bro. The fact that 100 people were organized with signs the day after, that is not something humans can do without money and organization. I'm sorry, bro. It's not.
Well, guys, speaking of dark money that funds the internet, we got super chats like Fluffy Panda for $2. Hey, he's suspended, not fired. People keep saying fired.
He's suspended until his contract's up, right?
Suspended
we don't know that
indefinitely.
yet. Yeah.
Indefinitely. And good friend WG for $50. Fridge fund. All the best. Thank you, WG. Our fridge is running low, so we appreciate that. Fluffy Panda for another $5. George Carlin did a bit on how the FCC decided TV and radio isn't covered by free speech. It's true. We got Ruby Hoove, who gifted 1 Salty Nerd podcast membership. Means we just need 3 more to keep Dutch from quitting the show. And the Wild Man of Yavin for $5. Just to say, due to how many different things rely on the frequencies of the airwaves, the FCC cannot give it to the states. The Fed has to run it.
That's a good point.
My only response would be that's why I think that, again, I don't know how all the technology of that works, but basically I think that the public broadcasting networks should just literally be emergency broadcast only, and then you basically have all those other ones go and become just their own private thing and do things their own way.
Yeah, public broadcast is actually super antiquated. Like, we live in a time where we don't need to cover protect the public airwaves anymore. It's not required.
Most channels are digital and not analog anymore, and I don't even know if you can get a lot of channels these days with a antenna for free anymore.
Yeah, I used to try to stay on top of that and get the antennas and dial in. And then I realized I'm fighting a losing battle, and I just went all digital. The only issue I have with this, you guys, and I'm going to say it again, is that I'm glad that quote unquote our side's in power now. I mean, like our side is in the people that I disagree less with, I guess. Because even the current like wing of government is like so corrupt, and I hate everything about government, dude. And when people go, are you right wing or left wing? Like, it's hard for me. I'm not left wing, but I'm not really right wing either. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm more like that old guy that wants you to get the fuck off his property and stop bothering him. I'm that guy. Like, allow me to utilize God-given, rights and to speak truth without punishment. That's me. Yeah. So while the current version in power are people I disagree less with, I think that the more power we give the government every cycle, the more the uniparty just utilizes that as a whip to beat the crap out of its people and subjectify us further. Every generation is less free than the previous generation since the 60s. I don't understand why we've allowed that to happen. And even in the 90s, and I love my dad to death, but when my Christian dad was like, yeah, I can't wait till they get that Howard Stern guy off the air. I remember being 14 or 15 and being like, Dad, what happens when that's a church? What happens when that's someone you like? Mm-hmm. Like, why are you allowing the government to take control over our lives because you happen to agree with them at this precise moment? So we need to government needs less power. Less power.
You guys heard it here first. Brian is a political bisexual.
I'm a political bisexual.
Super Jones Bros for $5. This won't happen, but the FCC should put out "Shut the fuck up about Coof Act." People are 100% sick of hearing about a 5-year-old cold. It's the deadliest horse. It's the deadest horse ever.
100%, dude.
Yes, indeed. All right, guys. Well, you know what's funny is that the left is up in arms about how ABC handled this thing, and they are now boycotting Disney. And guys, we here on this panel were boycotting Disney before it was cool, except for the guy who is the biggest Disney shareholder on the panel.
I was trying to work from the inside out, bro.
Oh my God,
I was a double agent.
That means your money's worth less now, even probably.
Look, if you can't beat them, join them.
But guys, what's so funny about this is like the left wing, who has been championing Disney's politics for the longest time, right? Man, is now up in arms. So like I got 3 things I want to get to before I hand it over to the panel here. So Damon Lindeloff, one of the biggest hacks working in Hollywood, has publicly come out and said, hey, I'm not going to work with Disney until they fix this thing with Jimmy Kimmel. And then Tatiana Maslany, who played She-Hulk, came out and told everyone to D+ themselves, to unsubscribe from Disney+. So in case you were hoping for a season 2 of She-Hulk, guess what? It ain't going to happen. And finally, the left are basically saying like, hey, Disney, Hulu, and ESPN all need to be boycotted. You need to stop watching them. You need to stop subscribing to them. You need to stop doing anything related to this network and this company until they kowtow back to us. So now Disney has basically pissed off the right and the left, and everyone dislikes Disney, and they all want them to suffer. So this is just Schadenfreude at its best, I think, because Disney brought this upon themselves. The left is the most disloyal and finicky group in existence, and they're also crazy.
And the most violent as well.
And the most violent as well. In fact, there was a report this morning that 3 gunshots were fired at an ABC affiliate in Sacramento, California.
Yeah, it happened yesterday. And they just they just found out who it was. It was like a 60-year-old Hispanic man, I believe.
Yeah, but I guarantee you they're going to say he was a right-winger. So...
the 60-year-old Hispanic who doesn't speak English is a right-winger.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to try to blame it on the right somehow. But basically, what I think is funny is like we were against Disney before it was cool, So I want to throw this to the panel. Brian, as the number 1 Disney shareholder on the panel, what's your take on the left suddenly trying to boycott Disney?
The left is so disingenuous, It's so wild. First off, Yes, you're right. We were boycotting Disney before it was cool. We've been criticizing Disney for years and years and years. Hey, Tatiana, cool story. All right. The only reason anyone knows your name is because of how bad your TV show was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
No
there was
one
Orphan
knew you
Black.
as an what?
There was Orphan Black before she was.
You know, I don't remember her from Orphan Black. I didn't know her name from that. Maybe the show was good, but like I didn't know her name until that monstrosity that was She-Hulk came out. So the people calling for the boycott, cool guys. Boycotts are fine. That's your freedom of speech at work. Just like freedom of capitalism, Disney can fire the guy a few months early before his contract was already going to be not renewed. Just like they can do that, you can boycott. That's your right. It's your right to protest. It's your right to boycott, even if those protests are being paid and supported by an outside dark money organization. It's totally your right to do so. It's definitely not your right, though, to be violent. Freedom of speech, freedom of protest, freedom of boycott, these things do not support violence. So you can't be shooting at buildings. You can't be trying to take out Bob Iger a la Luigi style because you don't like that some hack bullshit comedian who wasn't even funny, was let go a few months before his contract was not renewed anyways. I think it's so weird. I like what Butters said. It's so weird they're taking up this cause and they're championing, Jimmy Kimmel as some kind of martyr. That's how you know it's a psyop. It's so organized. It's an organized psyop to the extreme because it was put together so quickly as a way for the left to group up and coalesce around this one thing and fight back against the Charlie Kirk narrative that was taking over the country. Why? Because Charlie Kirk, he had the hearts of younger people. I'm talking about high schoolers, early college. People loved Charlie Kirk. He was turning an entire next generation of voters into conservatives. He was showing them truth. He was speaking life into a young generation, something that the Republicans have not been able to do for a very long time. In fact, up until Trump, the Republicans had no teeth. They were basically just sort of a sub-wing of even shittier Democrats. So the fact that Charlie Kirk and his organization was reaching an entire new generation is enough for them to try to fight against that narrative, to try to retain whatever control they have coming up in the upcoming midterm elections and maybe even the presidential election in 3.5 years. I think that this whole psyop, this whole boycott Disney, Jimmy Kimmel's martyr nonsense, I think that it's all just another way for them to to attempt to control the American mind, and attempt to claw back whatever power they have, and it's transparent. And I'm glad that we finally live in a timeline where the side the side that we agree with more is in power, and we can say these things, because 5 years ago this would have been age gated or restricted by YouTube the second you bring up dark money, the second you talk about Act Blue or George Soros or COVID.
Misinformation
5 years ago,
or disinformation.
Yeah, 5 years ago, this would have been disinformation, and we would have been restricted at best, demonetized at worst. How do I know? From experience. So I'm glad we live in a timeline where we can speak these things, and we can speak truth to what we believe is injustice, what we believe is corruption. I'm glad. But don't get it twisted. I believe that this is a psyop, 100% all the way. I'm not putting my Alex Jones tinfoil hat on. It's just they organized way too quick. They coalesced around this idea way too fast.
Well, I want to throw this to Odin, because Odin, one of the interesting things about this is that it's not just like a public outcry that's like, oh, we got to unsubscribe from Disney. There's a lot of people who are biting the hand that feeds it in terms of Hollywood actors and writers and directors and producers who are coming out publicly against Disney, against Marvel, against all these subsidiaries of Disney, and saying, oh, we're going to refuse to work with them until they meet our demands. And this is kind of a holdover from the actors and writers strike that where you had a lot of people going out there and kind of attacking the studios, but this one's very specific. What do you think the fallout's going to be for these celebrities that are basically saying I'm refusing to work with Disney?
I mean, there's not going to be much consequence at all, because I bet the behind the scenes they're probably like, yeah, we kind of support you in this, right? Because again, if they're not on the team, then they're the ones that ultimately, get harmed by it overall. Like, again, they're probably close friends with these people still, and all that good stuff. So I don't think anything's gonna actually happen. We all know that there's two-tier justice. That's one of the reasons why Gina Carano won her lawsuit, right? Because clearly there were political motivations behind her firing, and they are not equal in how they were attributing those things. So I think that ultimately that is a big part of it. So I look at what's going on here, and all I can do is just, again, there's a lot of joy in the fact that you have, again, these crazy people out there now calling for the cancellation of Disney Plus, and it's like it's one of those few times where you might actually find, right, some common ground. It's like, yeah, we support you. Like, please continue to boycott them. Please continue to cancel your subscriptions. That's exactly what we would love for you to do, especially because poor Brian's going to keep losing money if the stock price continues to go down because of these cancellations.
We
should actually happen, but
we should have a ticker up in the corner. And
yes.
that says how much money Brian lost this
yes.
week. You guys are mean.
Hey, I know. Hey, guys, wait. If the left is boycotting Disney, let's promote Disney. You know what I mean? Huh?
Yeah, no.
But no, that's kind of where I am with all of it. But also, again, it really does bother me that the media has become so talented in doing this, right? Not only in obfuscating the truth, but also in being able to distract away. And I'm happy that there's still a lot of people that have clearly been able to, to wake up to kind of what the media has been doing. But there's just still so many that are trapped, right? There's just so many that are still just stuck in that space where they buy everything CBS, ABC, NBC say. They buy the lies. They believe all of the crap that's put out there, especially the boomer generation, right? Especially the boomer class. And I just really hope and pray that more and more time that goes by, the less reliant they become on it. And that's also, again, why I would love to see a lot of these, like, companies, corporations, and stuff like that, finally get the consequences that they have been deserving for many years now.
Hey guys, I just looked it up. My total return is only negative $10,061.77 for Disney.
You.
Not bad. It's only
Not
negative $10,061.77. Not bad.
Could be a lot worse.
Could be worse.
A lot worse. We should have a super chat-a-thon to try to raise $10,000 just for Brian.
$10,061.77.
No, just 10,000. That way you'll be minus $61.
Yeah, but if we do that, you have to invest it in like Dogecoin or something.
Yeah, I'll invest it solely in Dogecoin. Only Dogecoin. Actually, my Doge holdings are up right now. They're at 26 cents. I bought at 18 cents, bro. Let's go.
Nice.
Total return 12%. Okay, come on, Doge.
All right, Dutch, what do you think about the calls to D-plus themselves?
I don't know. I kind of moved on already in my head. I think boycotts are dumb, to be perfectly honest with you. I feel like they rarely work, but maybe in the case of Disney, maybe with everybody being upset at Disney and the left and the right and everybody in the middle, not subscribing to Disney Plus. Maybe in the end we'll get something watchable on that platform. I don't know. Maybe someday, or maybe it'll just go away. So who knows?
It won't ever go away. It won't ever.
Either way, it's a win. So yeah,
I don't know. Effective. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Like I said,
go ahead.
I just think it's just more hypocrisy. It's like they like something until they don't, and then next month when Jimmy Kimmel's back on the air after he caves, they'll all be back to kissing Disney's ass again. So, whatever. It doesn't really matter to me in the long run. So I'm going to watch.
I am a little worried about the reaction of Disney, though. Like they in order to appease these tiny percent of their customer base, these weirdos, they might go like even harder into the left. When I think that Disney was slowly pulling to the right, because of the new administration, the time we live in, and they're trying to make money again. I think I'm really hoping that the current leadership is not at Disney. They're not such cowards, such testicle, soft penis cowards, that they worry about this tiny percentage of customers, and they once again overcorrect and end up back in with progressive gay cartoons or whatever.
You know, I tried to watch a Disney, or I think it was a Hulu thing, that Predator cartoon that's on there. And
Killer or something.
The very first episode is this badass group of Vikings led by some chick. I'm like, man, that's lame. There's no woman Viking that's gonna like go slaughter an entire village of Viking warriors all by herself with her four-person band of Vikings. It was just atrocious. I'm like, woman boss shit. So I tried, but then I'm done again. So
I don't know.
whatever.
Freya seemed to do okay in the Vikings TV show. So.
Yeah, well, that's because she was hot.
Super hot.
Well, so Odin, did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh yeah, I was going to say the only way that boycotts can really be, or the most effective way boycotts can actually work, is not only in taking money away from those evil corporations, but then giving it to things that you do want to see, giving it to people that should be receiving it, but then also when things do pop up that are good, supporting them. That's why I think you have seen actually a lot more effective boycotts recently, where, for instance, the Bud Light boycott was very effective, and the opposite side of that, supporting things that seem to give you what you want. That's why American Eagle saw a lot of success with it, because people were willing to move their money. Yeah.
Also the Cracker Barrel thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting about this is that if companies, and this includes Disney, if they were to cater to the right side of the aisle, which is basically everything left of Lenin at this point, right-wingers are forgiving. Like they'll be like, okay, you came around, now we're going to, reward you by patronage or, going to your store, buying your products, stuff like that. Liberals, on the other hand, do not forgive, right? They are vengeful, spiteful people.
True.
And so no matter how much you cater to them, it's never enough, right? So I think if Disney were to actually move further away from the radical left and just start catering to families and conservatives and stuff like that, like they historically did, they'd have a lot more success. They'd have a lot more praise. They'd make a lot more money. But for whatever reason, their elitist bubble in Hollywood prevents them from doing so. I'm just saying.
I mean, imagine if they decided to actually announce projects with Sydney Sweeney instead of all the trans nonsense.
Yeah.
Oh yes, Sydney Sweeney, everybody's hot Hollywood new girl. Yeah,
okay,
cool.
like make movies for the majority of your customer base. Like it makes no sense to make a product for only a tiny itty bitty portion of your customer base.
Did you guys see the Sydney Sweeney thing that came out yesterday, that she's in like a relationship with Scooter Braun, the guy who owns all of Taylor Swift's music, who she's been at war with for forever. So now Sydney Sweeney's got the whole left, and now she's got the Swiftie army all up her ass. So
yeah,
she's just out there poking all the right buttons. It's really funny, man. So good for her. Go Sydney.
I'd say good for Sydney. Scooter Braun.
Yeah,
it's like
it's good for Scooter.
yeah. G Scooter, way to go. But I think that one of the things that really stands out to me is the difference in how the left is treating this. Like, for instance, you have Pedro Pascal, who didn't say a single thing about Gina Carano getting fired and canceled and stuff like that. Yet he comes out in support of Jimmy Kimmel. Meanwhile, he's posting memes and things on social media that demonizes the right constantly. And yet he doesn't have any consequence to that. So I think if Disney just had like principles and fairly applied those principles to all of their employees, this wouldn't be as big of an issue as it is. But they obviously have a bias, right? And they keep leaning into that bias and letting people get away with bad behavior.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that some of these affiliates actually took a stand and basically said like, hey, you need to shape up because our market isn't standing for this anymore. Things have changed. And that wave of change hasn't quite hit New York and LA yet, apparently, because people in these bubbles are still trying to change the narrative, to shape the narrative, to move it away from the real tragedy that happened and the tragedies that continue to happen against vulnerable people like women and children, right? Like they keep trying to say like, oh, there's violence on both sides. That argument's complete bullshit. Name me a right winger that went and shot up a church recently, right?
Yeah.
I think the last one you can really point to is Tim McVeigh in the 90s for that Oklahoma City bombing. Like this idea that there's violence on the right hand side. We had prayer vigils for Charlie Kirk. We didn't go and riot and burn down cities, right?
Yeah, that's the difference. One of our heroes died, someone that we love, and we have prayer vigils and remember his name fondly and try to carry on his mission, with inspiration. The other side of that is some drug addict douchebag, violent douchebag, dies from a drug overdose while in police custody, and there's 6 months and billions and billions of dollars of damage done, and all kinds of violent people hurt, cops put in the street, literally riots for months and months and months over a douchebag that overdosed, over a drug addict douchebag that overdosed.
A no name.
I'm so glad I can say that now. Because 5 years ago they wouldn't let me say that.
Again, so glad you brought that up, right? Because it's, again, a no-name D-bag that overdosed, who they decided to put into the limelight and create a name and create basically a martyr out of him, right? Create idols literally towards him.
Motherfucker's literally in a gold casket, dude.
I mean, it's disgusting. But it's like, they take
Crazy.
a no-name guy and then this is how crazy they are. They will riot over a no-name guy over a fake story, but look what happens when a prominent voice in the conservative movement gets assassinated. People go to church.
Yeah.
Right.
You cannot say two sides. You cannot say both sides. The reactions to both of those events clearly show you all of the mental illness and all of the insanity is on the left-hand side.
Most of it.
No doubt.
Can I say one thing on that real quick? Sorry, real quick. The people saying that, there's statistics that say the right wing is more violent than the left. Look at all these cases of violence on the right and left. You know what's interesting? Is all the cases they decide not to include. They don't include the Summer of Love and the billions and billions of dollars worth of damage as left wing. They don't include people that were not prosecuted for hate crimes against Asian Americans in coastal cities like New York and California. They don't include those as left wing. They don't include obvious left wing violence as left wing because of some weird statistical anomaly, like, they weren't convicted or that wasn't politically motivated. But anyone who wears a red hat or a Christian cross is automatically attributed as a right wing anytime. Why isn't that the trans school shooters weren't included in the statistics for left-wing violence? Obviously, they're left-wing. But it's crazy how even the organizations that manage our data are being controlled from the inside out with this progressive malware designed to infect people and to distract people and to manipulate people into gaining more power. And it's disgusting.
Yeah, and the left has a long history of juking law enforcement stats. Like, for instance, one of the things that they did to lower crime was just to make more crimes legal, like shoplifting and like all this other stuff. Like they constantly
California under $1,000. You know what that rule is, Matt? When you say someone, well, we're not going to prosecute if it's under $1,000, but don't do it. What you're telling people is it's okay to shoplift up to $1,000.
Yeah,
that's what you're telling them.
Well,
and someone in the comments said, Kyle Rittenhouse, that wasn't an act of violence. That was an act of self-preservation. That was an act of defense. A couple literal pedophiles were trying to kill him, and he shot first. I'm sorry. I have no love for the idiots that died while trying to assault a minor.
Also, they oftentimes will write up crime statistics for illegal alien Hispanics and Middle Easterners and stuff like that as white. Right, because they don't actually have like a checkbox for that specific ethnicity.
Hispanic is white, right?
So they just put them all under the white category,
right? And
then they say like, white supremacy is on the rise because all these white people are committing violent hate crimes and stuff like that. It's like, no, that's not really the case. It's being misreported.
Yeah,
right. And this is stuff that's provably true, right? Like a lot of law enforcement have come out and said this, and this is one of the reasons how they get away with it, by pointing at juked stacks. But it's not juked, guys. Our super chats. We got Tack'em Dub for $5. I don't agree with some of what you're saying, but keep saying it. Yes, thank you. Keep doing that.
There you go, brother.
Fluffy Panda for $2. I was boycotting Brian before it was cool.
It's true. It's true.
It's true.
It's true. He has been for
He's an
years
OG
now. Literal years.
OG.
We've been doing this for so long that Fluffy Panda has been boycotting me for years.
Yeah. OG boycotter right there. Dead Pirate Mikey for $20. Please clip Matt's explanation of the Kimmel situation and post it everywhere. Butters and Odin are right. Left is trying to replace Charlie Kirk with Kimmel. Outrageous, showing their colors again. And then we got a members chat for Danny the Dork Knight, member for 22 months. Left, right. Will we ever just be Americans again?
It's a problem, Danny. No.
I hate to break it to you, Danny. The left aren't Americans. They're Chinese communists because they're the ones financing them.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. They're like, well, can't you guys find common ground? No, common ground was left when you started killing people that disagreed with you. Common ground. I can't find I can't find a middle ground with you. If you think violence against people that say things that hurt your little feelings is okay, there's no fucking common ground. I can't find common ground with you.
If you don't have a shared group of first principles that you can all agree upon, there cannot be any common ground, right? And again, I think that a pretty good standard, there should be more, but a pretty good standard is not finding joy when someone gets assassinated for their opinion. That should be a pretty standard line. So if you can't get there, then yeah, at this point you have abandoned basically any sense of American principle, and so therefore really aren't American anymore.
Let me ask you this question then. So when I get a sense of pleasure and I want to try to make a drinking game out of watching missiles hit narco boats in the ocean, does that make me a bad person?
No, bro, that's been happening since you were a child. It's just being televised now. It's in the open. Guys, Shane was in the Navy. Half their job is stopping these boats from getting to our shores. It's a very common thing. It's so weird. It was like, under the Biden administration, we didn't do that. Are you kidding me? Obama was known for using drones to take out targets. Calm down.
So another big deal here is that it's not just the fringe of the left that's celebrating murder and violence. It's actually the mainstream of the left-hand side of the aisle that's out there putting up TikToks celebrating the brutal murder of a man whose only crime was publicly debating people. Sharing his ideas and being successful at it. That's the real issue here. And Danny the Dork Knight for $2. So do you think America needs a divorce then? I don't think America needs a divorce. What I think we need to do is we need to stop all this radical money that's brainwashing people through the news media and through education, like higher education institutions. I think we need to stop that money, and we need to stop that influence, and we need to make people sane again. For too long, we've been promoting mental illness via, radicalizing like news. Like 90% of all news coverage for Trump is like vile and disgusting, and they've moved on to MAGA. I love this argument. It's like, oh, if you're against Antifa, you're promoting fascism, because like, why would you hate a group that's anti-fascist? Well, why would you hate MAGA, a group that wants to make America great again? Does that mean you hate America?
Right.
Names aren't always representative of what the actual goal of the organization is.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest problem here is that we've normalized and we've tolerated bad behavior by the radicals. And so now normies are saying like, okay, well, that must be how I have to act if I want to be normal or accepted or whatever. And that's just not the case.
Yeah. Part of the reason we're here is because our tolerance and our empathy for people, our love of people's freedoms has allowed them to run amok to a point where mental illness is being praised.
And it's not just that stuff, but there's other things that like people are mad because Trump wants to like not have our colleges and universities educate Chinese communist students from, a country that's basically our adversary and our enemy. It's just things like that drive me crazy. How dare the MAGA not want, the enemy countries out there to not own land inside our borders.
Right.
It's just like, seriously,
I can't believe that.
About? Oh my God.
The people fighting the H-1B1 thing, like, I can't believe they have such a high amount on H-1B1. Well, that's supposed to be for the utmost professionals from other countries. It's not supposed to be for every call center asshole you want to bring into the country.
I'm sorry, but I don't think we need to be educating, future Chinese government scientists in our college laboratories.
Yeah,
I just don't, it's just
when I read like, they're gonna bring in 5,000 Chinese students, I literally read 5,000 Chinese spies immediately.
Yeah,
that's all I read.
Exactly. So I don't
nothing
know,
against Chinese people, but the Chinese government is literally they're communist. So no thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, guys, I want to get away from some of the more political stuff and talk a little bit about Skydance and their overtures to buy Warner Brothers. I found this when I first heard this. I was like, "Oh, this has got to be like clickbait bullshit," but apparently it's not. So Skydance, which just bought out Paramount, right? They just took over Paramount. Now they're looking at Warner Brothers and they're like, "Hey, I want to buy Warner Brothers too." And what's interesting is that Warner Brothers has kind of been on the chopping block in the sense that they're getting ready to split off into two different companies, one that's saddled with all their debt and the other has like a growth opportunity. Apparently they learned nothing when Paramount did this, about 20 years ago. But that's the strategy right now. But what Skydance is doing is they want to get in before that split happens, when there's less competition to buy up this company and basically take over Warner Brothers and merge them with Paramount, which I think is kind of crazy because they're talking about a $70 billion takeover. Now, for a little bit of context, when Disney took over Fox, that was a $50 billion takeover, right?
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money, especially considering the fact that they just spent billions to like take over Paramount. So there's a possibility here that Paramount could buy out Warner Brothers and merge the two studios together, which means that Showtime and HBO would be under one roof. Harry Potter would be under the same studio as The Godfather, and Star Trek would also be there with DC Comics and all this other stuff. So it's kind of an interesting prospect. A lot of people are kind of questioning the wisdom of this type of move because they're basically overpaying before these two companies split. But there's also been rumors that Netflix has been bandying around the idea of offering to buy out Warner Brothers. And my question is, like, would Warner Brothers really want to be bought out because they were just taken over by Discovery not too long ago?
Yeah.
So I want to throw this to Odin. Odin, what's your take on it? Do you think that this is something that could actually happen?
I'm more on the side of saying it probably won't, just because, as you mentioned, the last deal that was made was not too long ago. And I definitely feel like when it comes to mergers at that level, you don't tend to see a lot. You tend to see a bit more, I guess, caution and care of these companies, like as they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, from trying not to allow them to become like a monopoly type, size, even though I do think there's already corporations that exist now that are essentially monopolies and probably, should have something happen in that capacity to break them up in some way. That being said, I don't think it's very likely, just because, again, it just seems way too close to the last merger.
What do you think, Brian, considering that you're a stockholder in Warner Brothers?
I am a stockholder in Warner Brothers, and it's been good to me. 200% increase. Not freaking bad. I do not think that this is going to happen. I think this is all smoke and mirrors. It's fairy dust, fugazi. It's not real. I think that they're padding their numbers with these buyout requests. I think Netflix might have actually fallen. I think they actually fell for the classic pump and dump. I think they want to pump the numbers up before the split. I think they're going to split, and the whole idea is to get those numbers up as high as they can go. I mean, look at the stock prices. Ballooned, bro. It's at what? It's at $20 right now, almost $20. Dude, I bought it at like $8. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Well, the whole point of this, though, is they want to get it really high so that when they split, the shares double and the price goes back to pretty much where it was at average. Right, so if the average was $10 or $11, then we can bump up those numbers, split the companies, split the shares, and still end up. And it's like a win-win. You double your shares without losing value. I think this is all just sort of smoke and mirrors, and I think Netflix is taking the bait, and which is exactly what they want to happen. Either way, I hope that Warner Brothers, one of the most celebrated, storied studios in Hollywood history is not bought out by fucking Netflix. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say about that. I like theater releases. Okay, I'm a big fan of real movies and not direct to streaming low bitrate garbage.
Well, one of the reasons that Netflix reportedly is looking to buy something like Warner Brothers is to increase their ability to pipeline content into theaters.
Mhm.
So it would actually be a play to get more of Netflix's content in movie theaters and broadcast TV outside of the streaming space.
It'll backfire.
Ooh, maybe we can get the Old Guard 3. That would be awesome.
Oh yeah, because the Old Guard 2 is so good.
I haven't even seen it yet.
Oh my
I
god.
don't think anyone has, man. Like I remember when Old Guard 1 came out, we reviewed it for the podcast, and we were just like, "This movie sucks." But Dutch, what do you think about this potential merger? What if Paramount?
Did
took over
you
Warner
not see my
Brothers?
private chat where
No, I
said,
saw your
I
private
don't
chat.
know
I'm just saying,
anything about this.
what if the studio that owns Star Trek suddenly got the studio that owns DC Comics?
Well, oh God,
It's not a good thing.
No,
it's
it's
not.
not good.
It's not a
That's
good
not good.
thing.
That's not good. No, I think they should just leave it alone. I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
leave them alone.
Yeah,
They're doing fine. I mean,
I
look
don't-
at Warner Brothers has had like top 8 movies this year.
I don't like all this this merging together of all the big studios in Hollywood. I liked it
Bad.
better when there was like 12 different little studios that made semi decent products for us all to consume. You know,
Competition's
So-
healthy.
yeah. I don't like monopolies, and I don't like this. Like the Disney thing. Because they own everything. That they own my entire childhood. And all of a sudden, everything that was involved with my childhood kind of sucks now.
They
Or no,
bought
not
your
ki-
childhood,
not, not
Dutch.
kind of sucks. It does suck.
They
you
bought your
know,
childhood and
yeah,
they made it
yeah.
gay.
That's exactly what they did. So I don't want to see that happen to any other big companies either. Just make products that we can consume and enjoy. That's all I really want. So I don't know. I don't understand the business side of everything, man. So
If I had to bet on it, and I do, and I am betting on it with my stock dollars, I think that Warner Brothers is not going anywhere. I think this is all fairy dust. I think this is designed to pump the stock before a split, and that's it. And we're all sort of falling for it.
Well, speaking of pumping stock, we got a super chat from Anita Amanda Huggin Kissin' Lips for $1.99. Brian, what's up, big boy? I thought you are mine.
Oh,
dang.
I don't
that one of those-
I don't
is that one of those
recognize your
Twitter bots?
name.
ooh, Anita.
Oh, Anita. Amanda hugging kiss lips.
Yeah,
Do we
go
need
get
to
your furry
tell-
suit on, Brian.
Do we need to tell your boyfriend about?
It's probably John Yolden.
John Yolden and his alter ego.
It's his alter ego.
All right, guys. I got one more story I want to get to before we wrap things up, and this is going to be kind of like a lightning round. But essentially, left-wing commentator Destiny seems to be getting canceled.
Oh,
Now, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but Destiny, who is this kind of like garbage human being of a streamer,
He's a garbage human.
he is one of the worst. He's someone who has openly called for the genocide of everyone who doesn't believe the same things he does, and that's on video. You can actually reference that. But he kind of started this this campaign that was meant to be a counter to Charlie Kirk's Turning Point, where he would go to campuses after Charlie Kirk had been there, and then debate people. And in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, people have been coming up and saying how many dicks have you sucked today, Destiny, and a bunch of other very vile things that are kind of funny, considering if you know anything about Destiny's history or whatever. But basically, Destiny came out recently and said that he'd been demonetized from YouTube, which is a bit of a troll because he was actually demonetized quite a while ago.
Mhm.
But he basically wanted to try to school right wingers who wanted him demonetized by seeing how many people would celebrate this. But he's been publicly saying that he believes that he's going to get permabanned from some of these streaming networks pretty soon. And I actually think that he probably should have been permabanned a long time ago, because he constantly violates terms of service and community guidelines on all these various platforms. Not the least of which is incitement to violence. He's constantly calling for violence against people who disagree with him. He's a very disturbed human being. He's very mentally he speaks with great conviction, which makes him sound smart, but he's actually not very smart. A lot of his arguments.
How dare you take him out of context when he says to
Yeah.
go murder people?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he just speaks with confidence. He doesn't know what the F he's talking about.
Yeah, and I've watched some of his debates with like people like Ben Shapiro and even Charlie Kirk and stuff like that. And it's like this guy, he's more concerned about clout and quote unquote being right than he is about the truth or any type of like middle ground or a free exchange of ideas or anything like that. He is truly a garbage human being. And I just want to get your guys' thoughts on whether or not you think that he's actually going to start having any consequence for what he's been saying. Because I know recently on Piers Morgan, he even had like a dust up with Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks, who is by no means a right winger, but she basically said that she's embarrassed to be even remotely associated with Destiny. And Destiny has even Hassan Piker, who a lot of people are rightfully like upset with. Like even they are like warring with each other. So like he's basically pissed off everyone.
Yeah, when you're left of Hassan Piker, something's wrong with you mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but a lot of people are saying that Destiny's time is numbered, especially with this congressional hearing about the radicalization on these platforms, which include Twitch, Reddit, and Discord and stuff like that. So just want to open it up to the panel. What do you guys think about this? Do you think that this bird's going to fly? That Destiny is actually going to pay the price for some of his violent rhetoric?
I sure hope so. That would be very nice to see him finally face the consequences for his actions, because it's not even just about getting deplatformed, right? As far as getting booted off for violating terms of service, but I think that there is enough reason at this point to even have some potential like criminal things against him with incitement to violence amongst other things. It's not a good position to be in when, and again, I don't know too much about him or about his family situation, but isn't it true that his son apparently also does not like him and like badmouths him on X and everything? Like,
he has a very odd relationship with his son. He very famously, he's had open relationship with his two wives.
He's literally a cuck.
He's also a bisexual. There's videos out there of him doing stuff with other men. And it's just, it's very strange. He's one of these people, he's not religious, so he has no moral compass. In fact, he's openly hostile towards people who are religious. He has no sense of like family loyalty or friendship or anything like that. He's literally like the most garbage human I think I've ever seen. And it's disturbing to me that this guy actually has a following and he has people who are out there defending him.
My guess is that, because I don't know too much about his history, but he started off as a game streamer, right?
Yeah.
So my guess
is like
Asmongold. Yeah, so my guess is that that's where he started, and he must have like from time to time made comments and stuff, and it was able to me honestly reminds me a lot of like the old school New Atheist, right? Where everyone back in like the 90s especially like thought they were so cool, right? These New Atheists, Hitchens and all of them, right? And it's like, oh man, they're going against everybody, and they're going against the man, and they're on the online forums and all that support. But then like it didn't take long for people to realize that they were full of it and that their arguments were terrible and that it didn't actually hold up to scrutiny. And I think that's exactly what's happening with Destiny as well, is that people are just like, oh man, he's going against the system, man, he's just so cool. But then you actually step back for even just a moment and realize, oh wow, this guy is a complete tool.
It's a bit unhinged.
And an imbecile.
Yeah. I mean, part of it's our problems though. Like we celebrated the guy before we knew that. I mean, he was wasn't he dating? He was dating like a popular. I forget her name. The blonde chick, right wing influencer. She was in the limelight for a while, then split.
Tommy Lauren?
Not Tommy Lauren, the other blonde one.
She
was at the Berkeley riots. Something. She has a very
Lauren
southern name. Yeah, Lauren Southern. Yeah, he was with her. Not dating, but like,
he didn't date her. He hooked up with her once.
He hooked up with her. Right. Well, but the right definitely celebrated him for a while before they knew that he was an insane person. Like we boosted his stats. And then when he got up there and he became sort of too big to fail for the left, he switched up. He showed his true colors. He's a douchebag. He's a garbage human, totally trash person. He should have been canceled a long time ago. I mean, he's broken terms of service on Twitch, I don't know, 1,000 times. The only reason he hasn't been canceled is because what's that?
They're probably daily.
Daily, yeah. The only reason he hasn't been removed is because there's a bunch of progressive, weird, blue-haired, mental them mental illness, brain damaged individuals that agree with him, that work there. It's that simple.
Well, he's also the first person to attack Charlie Kirk's widow for coming out and not trying to lower the temperature after her husband was just brutally murdered in front of her. That's how much of a garbage person this guy is, where he basically criticizes the widow. And he also said that, I could be wrong in this, but I believe he's the one who said that it's a good thing that Charlie Kirk died before he could corrupt his 2 young children into believing the same things that he did.
Yep.
And that's the type of thing. Yeah, that's the type of thing where it's like when the right side of the aisle is saying like, you guys want to kill us. He's the picture perfect example of like where a lot of people on the left, where their heads are at.
Yeah, and Hassan's not off the pike here too. Like he is just as bad, but he's just not as crazy. That's the only difference.
Destiny's an adult child. Like, cause he's doing this for attention. That's the only reason why. Like you went before about, the mentioning of him being demonetized. He did that because again, it's like these idiots. They don't even realize it was already demonetized. They're so stupid.
Yeah,
like that's him. He is an adult child, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'm usually not in favor of people being deplatformed because of like, free speech and stuff like that. But when you have someone like this who is inherently malicious, and he is, make no mistake about it, advocating for violence against people who disagree with him, like that, this is someone who needs to be deplatformed. Like no Proud Boy was ever as hateful and spiteful as Destiny was, and yet they were consistently debanked, thrown in jail, censored, deplatformed, all this other stuff.
100% true.
Yeah, and it's just like there is no equivalency here.
Dude, look at Alex Jones, bro. Like, that guy is still on the air somehow. He's still somehow out there speaking truth to power and running his business. I don't know how
Brian, here's the interesting thing about Alex Jones, right? That $1 billion lawsuit against him was because he spoke out in a way that could be considered in favor of that school shooting. Mm-hmm. Whereas Destiny has come out and spoken blatantly about being in favor of the Charlie Kirk shooting and calling for even more violence.
Yeah, like hypocrisy is unreal.
What he did wasn't even a fraction as bad as what Alex Jones, or what Alex Jones did wasn't even a fraction as bad as what Destiny did. Destiny is not being taken to court for $1 billion. Right. Even though he probably should be. Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, people like us, not us, but people with our mindsets, we gave them that platform to begin with. So it's our fault.
I don't know about that. Destiny was always pretty left-leaning. I think a lot of people who liked Lauren Southern early on.
We helped his platform though, right? Same like what Odin said about the atheists. Like we definitely, they're fighting the man, even though we disagree on everything fundamentally else. Like,
well, I think a lot of the higher profile with Destiny was when people started accepting his invitations to debate, because he debated a lot of like very high profile right wingers, and that kind of gave him credibility as like a political person or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Why did so many people debate him when he never had anything valuable to say ever? Because it was like an easy win or something? But didn't they know they were just giving him clout for nothing?
Because they didn't understand the internet. That's why. The people debating him did not understand the internet. And so he was going for the clippable moments that he knew would get viral and knew would get clicks and knew would get attention. And that's why. Yeah.
They were winning debates. He was winning the marketing game.
Yep. You know what else gets attention, guys, is gifted subs, like the one from Eric Winberg. I want to thank you, Eric. I think we're one off from Dutch quitting the show. So we need to get one more
so close
in the next 5 minutes. Anyway, guys, I want to thank everyone who came in for today's show. Stay tuned, because we're going to be sending you over to the Brain Show, which happens as soon as Brian relieves his bowels on screen. He's doing it right now. I know you can't even tell. There you go. There you go. I want to thank my expert panel of nerds for being here. Hopefully next week we actually have some like fun entertainment stories to talk about that aren't as political or divisive. But still, I think these things are important to talk about, and I appreciate you guys sharing your opinions on them. Odin from OMB Reviews, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, you can find me over at OMB Reviews. And honestly, I'd be very surprised to see, because one thing we didn't really touch on, but South Park claimed to not be ready to have an episode this week. I think ultimately
right,
we know why. So I'm going to be very interested to see exactly what kind of episode they put out there. And honestly, I think that this the whole Jimmy Kimmel stuff, not only gives coverage for Hollywood to talk about something, right, to make them seem like the good guys because they can't say any nice things about Charlie Kirk, right? I think, again, there's a little bit of that cover there. I would not be surprised if now all of a sudden that's what the entirety of the episode from South Park is this week, and they don't even mention the whole Kirk situation.
Possibly. All right, Brian from the Popcast and the Brain Show. Any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Final thoughts. Odin, what's going on with the Episcopal priests, bro? Why are there so many lesbian women priests all of a sudden in the Catholic Church?
They're not in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, Brian.
Episcopalians are not Catholic.
Oh, so what are they? They're dress Catholic? I don't know anything
They're
about
Protestant heretics, Brian. That's what they are.
Well, it's driving me nuts.
They follow that Luther guy.
How is my entire feed full of these gay retards?
Did somebody say heresy?
It's so weird because I'm seeing like all these like hyper gay
it's
bold
because
dyke
you're-
lesbians in priest outfits on my feed.
It's because you're queer. The
Like,
algorithm knows that you're queer.
What algorithm did I fall down where I want to see nothing but bold dyke 4'3" lesbian priest with a whole collar and everything, dude?
You gotta
It's like,
follow the Catholic accounts, Brian.
oh, I don't know how these things are showing up on my feed. It's driving me nuts. I wanted to ask you about it before the show, but I forgot.
Brian, if they'll quit being on your feed when you quit following them all.
I'm not following them. They just keep showing up. They're like, I don't know. It's
Ask Grok. Grok will tell you how to take them off.
yeah. How do we get rid of these weird and they're all like 5'4" bold dyke. Like they have like the haircut, the bowl cut, and they're like, listen up, guys. Trans rights are human rights. Like what are you? Stop talking. Listen to Pastor Phyllis, and Pastor Phyllis comes out and it's some obese black chick with the collar. Hi, I'm Pastor Phyllis. Where are these
I
people
don't
coming
know.
from?
Hey, what's wrong
Brian's
with
facts have gotten very mixed up.
Hey, we can find me on the Brain Show right after this. I'm gonna be going right into that, like literally 5 minutes from now. We're talking about a lot of the same stuff, but from a slightly different angle. And today we're gonna be joined by both John and Shane at the same time. We're gonna call it a menage a trois.
Hey, Brian, what are you doing today? Protestant lesbian priest.
Protestant and lesbian priests. Bold dykes.
In case you guys want to know what happens when you hold your pee in for too long, you just saw it in real time.
Yeah.
Dutch Butters, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you on the gaming channel?
Gaming channel, Dutch Butters Gaming. That's where you can find me. We're shifting things around over there. Helldivers 2 has finally shit the bed, everybody. They've abused their player base for too long with their terrible updates and their bad coding. So just yesterday, this new game called Jump Space got into early access, and it's an absolutely fantastic, very well polished game for early access. It's only $20, and there's a lot of us that are playing that game right now. We've been looking forward to it for a while. We have a relationship with the devs there. We're going to be covering that game for a while going forward, and that's where we're at, Jump Space, and we're looking forward to some other new games coming out in the next couple months. So join us on Dutch Butters Gaming for that. That's where we're at. So.
Good stuff. Want to give a big shout out to John Yulden, Fluffy Panda, WG, the Wild Man of Yavin, Super Jones Bros, Tackham Dub, and Dread Pirate Mikey, and of course the Dork Knight. And who can forget Anita, Amanda, Huggin, Kiss and Lips. Thank you all so much for your support during the show. We appreciate all those super chats. And be sure to tune in next Saturday, same salty time, same salty channel, for more saltiness about stuff nobody cares about. Until then, stay salty, my friends.
Lesbian